Going once, going twice, sold! You're listening to The Property Pod.
All right, guys, welcome back to the Property Pod, your weekly engagement into the real estate market here in Hobart. I am Aaron, your host, and I'm joined by 414 Property Co. real estate agents, Patrick Berry.
Hello, hello.
And John McGregor.
Always a pleasure, gentlemen.
It's good to
Always a
be in.
pleasure.
I can see you guys you coded up, both of you today.
Yeah, and in the reverse, you've got the button up, and I'm wearing the cash.
Actually, yeah, that's very true.
It's very strange.
That is.
I've got a T-shirt on though.
That's true, and we're all branded, which I'm really happy about.
And didn't you say you're going to the dentist? Like you put on a nice jacket to go to the dentist?
You've got to dress to impress the dentist.
You've got everything around the wrong way, mate.
Oh, I'm hoping that she'll just overlook the cavities. I look sharp.
He wore a nice jacket. Yeah, he must have good teeth. You're fine.
Don't even worry about it. Actually, no charge. No charge.
All right, boys. Well, you're off to the dentist, but you're going crazy with listings at the moment.
Yeah, I was looking just before I've made another coffee for the pod, and it's like a reverse day for me because I was staring at the cup, going, "How do I put the cup? Where's the coffee?" And I was legitimately getting the spoon to put coffee from the cup into the tin.
Yeah.
Went, oh my god, my mind's just not with it because we were here early this morning, and when we're just coordinating the day, and we looked at like the difference of stuff that's happening. So we've got one house that's getting cleaned up. There was 8 offers to present, and then we've got property write-ups before that. Later in the afternoon, we're going back to had a request for early access to have fencing done. So there's just so many different variances of what's required for all the properties active and not.
Yep.
I think my brain just when I was trying to make a coffee just farted and went, I'm done.
Jeez. And it's only the start of the day.
Yeah.
No, it's kind of crazy because at the moment it seems like there's kind of a lack of properties out there. Stock seems to be pretty low across the board, but you've kind of had a really bumper month. I guess all that hard work of prepping everything and getting it to this point is, you had a really successful open home on the weekend.
Well, the one of the we had that one at Lighton Way in Lenna Valley, and there's another one we've been having fun with up at 945 Collins Cap Road in Molesworth.
Yeah.
So that was an estate situation where it was really interesting. I was really grateful that we got the job because the whole house because the owners had passed, so the whole house was just empty. There was no beneficiaries, no family members to do anything with this stuff. So we actually spent a lot of time going through the house, or when they say we, I meant me, just trying to ensure that anything valuable was still retained.
Yep.
So they found some jewellery along with
Are these the letters that you found?
Yeah, so there was
explain
actually
this.
Buried in the ensuite in just an obscure old box underneath a whole waft of other stuff was just a box filled with letters that almost it's like the old, so they looked like they're coffee stained.
Yeah.
And there was actually correspondence between family members and an old prime minister from 100 years ago. So there was photos and documents and sealed letters and envelopes. Like there was just chock to the full box. And so the lawyers are coordinating the estate ended up, so I brought it to them, and they ended up rigging up the Australian Archives, and the value of the letters ended up being close to like 70 grand.
70?
Yeah.
I thought you said 7 the other day.
No, it was 70. And it was just this obscure corner box, It was
It could have been thrown out.
And some people could throw that. I would have just been like old letters toss.
Who's buying these old letters?
It was. It'll be the Australian Archives. I think.
So they will actually buy them and keep them.
And where that negotiation ends, I don't know. But that was part
Donation,
of the value.
I reckon.
Yeah, well, but the thing is, that's what's beautiful about this estate. So all the proceeds of this sale actually go to charity. So the will was written up so that everything that's we've organised at this point, that's why even when I was chatting with the purchasers, I was to say, well, look, yes, it's an estate situation. Instantly people think, oh, bargain. Well, no, because we're motivated and driven at this point that everything we can get from this sale goes to charity.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. So
I was actually going to ask. I was going to say if there's no family or there's no one about to. I was going to follow up with what happens on that occasion. So in the will, they've stated they'd like it to go to charity.
Yes, that's right. So it's a really. I mean, it's been a
specific
sad
charity. Do they say we want it to go to? Say charity or something.
I can't remember. Yeah. I think it was sort of ones that was important to the couple.
Yeah.
But it's been a really sad sort of run and a lot of work over the course of a couple of months. But it'll have a really nice end.
Yeah,
which I'm really grateful.
Nice that it's had lots of interest as well because it's kind of one of those ones when I was out there shooting it. It was kind of like, this is a unique property. It's kind of on this big parcel of land, but kind of hidden in a little corner. And I think one of your marketing strategies was like, if you want to get away from it all and live in the middle of nowhere, essentially.
Yeah,
This is the
exactly.
spot.
This is the one for you.
And it's been getting heaps of interest.
Well, and the idea being is it because Molesworth in that position is 15 minutes to Norfolk, about 25 minutes to Glenorchy.
Yeah.
And what's great about that internal block is once you get in, the radius of all the houses is quite a fair distance, even though the house is right on the boundary. You cannot see any of your neighbours. So if you want to do a nudie run around the property, you've got no issue. So it's that, and everyone could appreciate it. Once you actually get into the house, it feels like you actually finally escaped.
Yeah,
I think most of the interest we had was people obviously living in the suburbs already. None of them have land, and they want to get out to it, and they like this one because you are basically in your own little sanctuary once you hit to that property. So, it's been it's been a lot of work, but we're finally coming to the tail end of it today, which will be fun.
Yeah, cool. Well, that's actually a really good jumping off point for today's episode. We've kind of found an RIA, is it REIA?
Yep.
Real Estate Institute of Australia.
Got it.
Jeez, I'm getting good at this.
Bloody hell you are, mate. It's almost like you're a real estate agent.
It's almost like I'm an agent. Yeah, come and talk to me. No, don't do that. So the media release last week that came out, which was talking about people wanting to move to regional areas and kind of a reform.
I like
needs
the
to be in
terms
space.
go country that they put in there.
Yes. So, yes, in inverted commas, go country. Is around 20% of city dwellers would like to go country, according to a new Regional Australia Institute survey. So
I wonder what what they mean by go country. I wonder how sort of wide and how wide a berth they're giving that kind of definition.
So looking further into it, it's kind of saying that affordability is a key factor in regions being seen as better environments in which to raise family, live healthier lives, and kind of get away from this pandemic. So it's kind of stuff we've been banging on about for a while now, that we live in a really nice place. We're considered regional. People are trying to escape these big smokes to kind of set up their life a bit better.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, as it goes further in it does say that COVID is a factor in people wanting to do it. But I think there's a stat in here that says 22% of survey respondents said they were already considering relocation before the pandemic.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So essentially what it's saying is people from Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne are looking, Sydney and Melbourne people are looking further and wider to try and find places where they can set up a home and go country, as it's stating in here, to boost these areas.
It's a bit of a double-edged sword though, isn't it? Because the more people that move to an area, the harder it is to buy in the area.
Yeah, well, again, it's that crazy thing of kind of, everyone moves here and it bumps the market up and the affordability becomes a completely different issue, and it removes the idea of this is a really cool, affordable place. It's kind of right on that tipping point of I think I read another article that it's more expensive to buy in Hobart now than it is in Brisbane.
I think, Hobart's the third or the fourth most expensive city to live in now, which is amazing when you actually think about it.
No one would have even thought that was a possibility 10 years ago.
Yep. We're heading to number one, baby.
Yeah, at this point.
It's just crazy though. Is that a global climate thing, or what is it is it the people are, if the first group of people are going country and then country becomes
city?
Yeah. I don't know. It's bizarre.
Well, what was that? Cities are designed for, exceptionally high density fundamentally. And then if all of a sudden everyone just disperses from that, well, they've got to go somewhere. Then all the suburbs aren't designed for high density. So you've just got a straight up supply issue, don't you? And I know when, I think Adrian talks about that when, all the zoning challenges that are faced once you've got this high demand in suburbs. And even when we look, just speaking to the Christy Johnson about the Glenorchy plan, part of that is that trying to encourage the council or to reconsider the zoning option so that you can have a little bit more density in the suburbs where with good infrastructure, you don't need as large a parcel of backyards, which obviously I think it's fair to say in Hobart and Glenorchy and surrounds and everywhere, we've got quite a large average backyard size for a city.
Yeah.
So being able for people to have the flexibility where you don't need as low or as you can have high density in the regional areas, especially in Hobart and Tassie, would hopefully help with these. But springing off Colin's cap, there was a classic conversation with one of the buyers who have made an offer. With her specific job, it's 100% administrative based. There's no face-to-face client interaction, so there's actually no necessity to be at her office.
Yeah.
And she can be twice as productive at home. She doesn't need to then have childcare services because her husband, her and her husband can navigate that quite well. She doesn't lose an hour in traffic just to get to the premises.
Yeah.
And provided that she's doing all the work, like she'd just rather be at home. It's connected to NBN. So she's like, stuff it. I'd just rather be at home and do better work and, live a much better lifestyle. So,
We've talked before about how an office might be just as valuable as a bedroom. Like if you've got a small room that doesn't really fit a bed, but it fits an office, that could be just as valuable in the future.
If not more valuable.
If not more valuable, based on kind of, I'm going to the office now. I'll see you in 8 hours. Good luck.
yeah.
Lock the door.
Yeah. Click.
And I think like in our job, ours is very much the same where we're external. I really like having this base here though, because we are working in a large team, it's nice to have that environment.
That's the only thing I don't like about working from home is that you don't have that interaction with other people.
Exactly.
You feel sort of isolated, and I feel that could be harming for a lot of people. People need other people in their life to be able to just live.
I think there's like a fine balance. Like I know we're getting into a whole other kind of
got off track.
Yeah, but I think there's a balance of, we do 2 days at the offices and we, make sure you're interacting, getting everything sorted that way. And then you can disperse off and be like, okay, yep, I've got all the other stuff sorted. Or you have one team that comes in on the, like I know when we started COVID, we were talking, rentals will come in this day, sales will come in this day. So we're not like crossing everyone's, it's a crazy consideration that you've got to kind of put in these things in practice.
Yeah.
But again, if more people are coming to regional areas and more people are on top of each other, all coming to the same spot, it's always going to cause a cluster.
There was another word already. Following on with that. But we are a G-rated show, so well done.
Well
Thank you very much.
No, I think you're right, Aaron. I think nothing's off the cards these days with how regional areas are set up and how people look at restructuring cities. And it'll be really interesting to see, especially where Hobart goes over the next couple of years and where Tassie goes over the next couple of years.
Yeah, well, so with Hobart, over the next couple of years, I've got an article here by our boy Jay Bev, the shoe king of the Mercury.
The shooting or the Mercury.
Yeah. So he's just telling us that more price growth is on the horizon. So it's come out of the Westpac New Housing Pulse report, which I had a quick look at yesterday. Had lots of figures and numbers that were too hard for me to make any sense of.
So, I love it. So I'm just going to rely on Jared's research.
Exactly. He's done all the heavy lifting, and then now I've just pulled out a few things where I've highlighted them. So I think we've already said on the show previously that there's about an 8% projection for 2021 in price growth. They're then saying the following year a 6% growth could follow that. So I think if you add that together, that's 14%. Quick math.
Well, compounded, a little bit different. Well, interestingly enough, those reports from the REIT I really like because they're a really succinct percentage growth, days on market, transactions, etc. And what if you look back between 2001 and 2003, the demand and price growth is almost on the map, almost identical to what it was back then.
When's this? Sorry, I missed that.
Oh, sorry, between sort of 2001 to 2003.
Yep.
And then what it is now from 2017 to 2021, the 4 years in the line graph almost repeats itself identically. Which was interesting. And at the time with that report as well, they, once 2013 was the highest surge of interest and lowest days on market, COVID blew it out a little bit, but we're starting to see that same days on market within these last, 6 months, especially in the last couple of years. And even after that was like Hobart prices doubled. And then over the recurring 3 years from 2004 to 2007 continued like a steady increase.
Yeah.
So it's almost, I wouldn't say history repeating itself, but it's just like an almost identical real estate cycle.
A cyclical cycle, like we're back to another point where. So what happened after that? Was there a crash? What are we looking for in the future?
Well, all that happened. The biggest key difference this time around though is still population growth in Tasmania because it just never happened.
Yep.
So this is charting different waters than it was back then.
Yep.
At the time, interest rates went from what I think was from like 8% shot down to 4% or something like that, or it might have been higher. And then because I know when I bought my first property in around about 2008, the interest rate was about 8.25%. So I guess if we go back further then,
Love that he remembers to the 0.25.
Yeah.
Like,
always
drilled that number in.
You always remember your first time back.
yeah, exactly. And so there must have been, I suppose, back the interest rates of 14 or 15%. So they shot right down back during that period, and then they rose again.
Yeah.
Rose again. The Black Knight returns. The Black Knight rises. But this, I mean, who knows what happens? I mean, we've got, was it Reserve Bank acknowledged they'll do 0.1% of interest rate. Tassie's got a population growth. So it's a completely different landscape than it was back then.
And we have a shortage of houses.
Exactly.
And that's not changing anytime soon.
Yeah.
So, and the biggest problem I think we have is coming back to what Christy spoke about, the zoning. Without rezoning to create more housing opportunities,
Yep.
the problem's not going away.
Yeah, it's because we can't, leverage the land that we've already got. They have to just keep doing urban sprawl.
Yeah.
And then they have to still do the exact same houses, which is 3-bedroom house on a larger block,
And
Yeah, I was only walking my dog. Oh, sorry, I was only walking my dog the other day, and at the end of my street, there was, the little notice saying they're going to add a dwelling to this backyard.
Yeah.
And it's kind of existing house, new unit's going to go on it. And I'm looking, kind of having a sticky beak, just thinking, where are they going to put it? Like,
yeah.
so good on them for nutting out
Finding
the
a
mats
way.
and being like, oh, there's enough clearance on this side and clearance on that side. Like, like it must be right down to the T. Good on them.
Yeah, hats off. Hats off.
So just because of their skill set, you're not going to object by the sound of it. You just want to see how that house gets.
I want to see how it fits on theirs because I've got a little granny flat flat. Maybe I could just be like, oh, we'll just add a little thing on here and
cut it off. And
cut it
call
off. That'll work. Call it 44A.
And you get to put the sign on the front too, man.
Yeah, no, it garnered my attention.
Well, I know in terms of the difference in the pricing expectation. I think anyone who's buying and selling at the moment can appreciate that we're everywhere setting new records at this point. And like when that article you sent through, it said 3 suburbs also tipped top the million price average for Tassie, which is Battery Point, Sandy Bay, and Kingston Beach.
which is crazy.
Yeah.
Like to think that there's going to be 3 suburbs in Tasmania where the average sale price is over $1 million.
Yeah, and for all the
Well, it used to be news, like in the newspaper, if you broke a million. One house sold for $1 million in Hobart. What? That's crazy.
Yeah. Well, I still can't. I was chatting with one of our clients. He's in Victoria. And actually, we were just talking about the house that my parents bought. And Mark was like, "Oh my God, they got that for that much?" Because inherently, if they were to bought where he is, they'd probably looking at $4.5 million or something ridiculous. You know,
That's cheap.
yeah, exactly. Because it's just comparatively to still different areas, we still show exceptional value, but. Where then everyone, remember these last few months with all the data we've got now, we're saying, oh, look, it's all the mainlanders buying up all these Tassie properties. Nope.
No,
It's the locals that are driving it. It's the locals that are driving it.
Though the story that we're reading at the start of this is saying that people are looking, and within the next 12 months, there could be a mass exodus and people trying to kind of come and get into our market. So it could be
Again.
a flip in the stats, and we could be having people that aren't locals trying to move to regional. It's not just saying Tasmania and Hobart and Launceston and all. It's states across the country, so it's not a kind of
Either way, it sounds like a
coming.
good time. Sounds like a good time to be in real estate.
Yeah, so it seems. I don't know. Do you reckon you guys could ever do a tree change? Well, personally,
Oh well, I've lived in Western Australia. I've lived in Victoria. I've lived
That's
in
true.
Canada for 6 months. Like I've definitely always.
I've lived in 4 streets in Rosetta. I'm going to move in too, Aaron, whatever.
I'm not bragging. I'm just simply saying I've lived in all these other places. And I love being home, and kind of when I finally settled and my feet felt like I've seen enough of the world, which is crazy at the moment because it's impossible to get anywhere. I'm dying to get back to Canada to see my brother and his kids.
yeah,
Or they're dying to get here as well.
yeah.
It's just one of those things where I'm glad I got to scratch that travel itch, and then coming home to Tassie, and I couldn't imagine being anywhere else. So
Sort of like you've had that. Well, this is where I really want to be. Like
Yeah.
I've been I've been a lot of other places.
I've been everywhere, man.
I don't know. He's been to Canada, West Australia, all that stuff. But at least, you can really fully appreciate now you've got your family and stuff here. It's just like, nah, this makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. Look, and it's convenient. It's local. I live 2 minutes from my work. I'm not having to do a long commute. If it ever got to the point where we were working from home 2 days a week or whatever it was, it would be like, oh, cool, if you need me in the office, I can be there in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
it's not an issue. So it's the convenience of lifestyle, which is mentioned in the article, the idea that you can get to the top of the mountain in 15 minutes and get out to your Collins Cap, escape from the entire world in 25, cruising.
Yeah, exactly.
How long will we be able to escape out there for if all these houses have been built, John?
Long enough. That's why you stand at the front with, I remember there used to be the old guy at Oatlands. He's gone now, but when he'd drive into there, he always used to have a hose and he'd just be hosing off all the cars that kept coming into his town.
Really?
So maybe if ever I move out to Molesworth, there'll be me just going, no.
I could picture you being the crazy bloke standing hosing people off. Or, was it just like a regular hose or a fire hose?
It was just a regular hose, yeah.
I've never heard of this.
What an interesting way to spend your day.
Maybe it was my obscure reference or an urban legend that I made up with a dream.
Have you heard about the hose guy at Oatlands? Well, John, I think there's a auction going on for some land in Oatlands that we're running it from 414.
Oh, yeah.
Coming soon. So
we'll see if he's around.
See if he's around. In the community hall, ask around for hose guy.
Yeah.
That'd be good.
Sounds like a Rosehaven. You sure you didn't watch Rosehaven, or that's an upcoming episode? Like,
it was like when I was in I got stuck in a town called Tongue in Scotland, and I was drinking with a couple of locals, and there was a renowned guy that was sitting across from me in the booth, and it was Alexander Crowe, and he was absolutely smashed off his head, and he just looked at me with these drunken eyes, and I'm going to do the accent badly, but what he used to do is he'd go out fishing for a few months, make a bit of money, come back, and then just get drunk in the town and go. But everyone locally knew him, and the next morning when I was at the hostel, and I just said, I met Alexander Crowe, and Leigh's like, Crowe,
that's pretty good.
Yeah, and then, but he just said to me, and that's why I've got a friend in Tongue, because he's looked at me dead in the face and said, dead in the eyes, and said, John, if ever you're in trouble, just call Crowe and I'll come running. And then he passed out.
Just call him before 12. Because after that, it doesn't sound like he's going to be much help, John.
No good.
Well, if Crowe is looking for any real estate here, there, anywhere, John can operate international.
That's right. Provide him in Tongue, and we're fishing in Scotland.
All right, guys, that's the property pod for this week. We're going out on a high.
Hey, it's regional. Maybe it's happening out there too.
You never know. We're going out on a high. All right, guys. We'll catch you next week. See ya. Bye. You have been listening to The Property Pod, recorded and edited by 414 Media House in conjunction with 414 Property Co.
This podcast is general information only, and the thoughts and views expressed is the opinion of our panel, and listeners should always seek then use their own investigation into any topic we discuss to ensure they fully understand their own situation.
It does not constitute and should not be relied on as purchasing, selling, financial or investment advice or recommendations, express or implied, and it should not be used as an invitation to take up any agent or investment services. No investment decision or activity should be undertaken on the basis of this information without first seeking qualified and professional advice.